This is the Slots and Sockets podcast, episode number 59. I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, and my partner in crime.
My new upgraded partner in crime.
Oh, well, yeah. I wasn't going to spoil the
It's all good. I'm happy.
Yeah, and you are, sir.
I'm Sir 9070 XT.
Oh, okay. So we're not going to call you Turbo Penguin anymore. All right.
No, you can
audience.
call me Mr. Yes.
He is Mr. 9070 XT now. I'm going to have to change all of our episode titles. Gosh darn it.
No, so bad. I screw things up.
Yeah.
How's it going, Moose?
Doing okay. We got some interesting stories, including a couple of manufacturers screwing things up on their own. So
I think this is a little odd for us to be doing this on a Friday late.
Yeah.
But I thought we both kind of were talking, and it was like, we really should talk about this because it's sort of a deal.
Yep.
And
it's a thing.
It absolutely is. And I think that, people need to be aware that, I have come to realize, within the last probably year and a half, it's almost evident that companies have just no care for their consumers.
Yeah. The you will own nothing and like it mentality is very strong in the corpo world.
And what's interesting is we'll just jump into it of what we're talking about, because Nvidia is not allowing any reviews or pre-release of any information about the 5068 gigabyte cards. You get nothing. And my question is really simple, is that what do they expect people to base a buying decision on? Because it's my understanding, have they released, and I've got to look this up, have they released slides of performance of what the 5060 is going to do?
They may have, but I haven't seen it. I would have expected that to be brought up.
Okay, so if I'm to read this correctly, and this is off of Nvidia's website, a 5060, with DLSS 4 and full ray tracing, it is, compared to the 2060, 6.2 times faster than the 2060. Now,
wow, they had to go back 3 generations.
Right? Okay, so a 2060. So a 2060 has, now I got to do some more searching here, 2060 was released, and it has, I think it only has 6 gigabytes, 6 gigabytes, and it was released in January of 2019. So it is 6 years old.
Yep.
6-year-old card, and it's 6.2 times faster than that. But that's also fake frames to fake frames.
Right.
So this is fake frames to real frames.
Yeah.
So they're doing the same thing. The 47, the 5070 equals a 4090.
Yeah,
they are doing the exact same thing. But now that, because they're upset that everybody was giving them and calling them out on their absolute garbage.
Mm-hmm.
That they're just going to say, great, nobody gets review samples.
Yeah, they're taking their ball and going home.
Yeah, exactly. See, you know what? I'm tired of you talking bad. Go away.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from this perspective, well, actually, sorry, they're comparing the 3060 is the 1X on these to the 6.2.
The slide I saw in the link I just sent you on Discord is Nvidia's ballyhooing double the frame rate, lower latency. and it's comparing the 5060 Ti to the 4060 Ti and the
And the
3060
20,
Ti.
yeah, the 2030 40. Now the one, if you click on this, you actually can get to this, the 5060. So it's vanilla non-TI models.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, let's be honest. If I remember correctly, the 3060 was an absolute garbage of a card from a performance perspective, wasn't
It
it?
was not particularly
It
great.
was. It was. The 4060 was bad
And I actually have a friend who's going to be
because the
getting my
30. Yes, the 4060 was bad because the
yeah,
3060 Ti was faster than the 4060.
right.
Yeah.
So
The
so
4060 was the dog.
so I have a friend who has a 3060 and has played all of these games. So Nvidia is intentionally playing games with these frame rates because in Black Myth Wukong, they say the 3060 Ti gets 18 frames a second. Well, my buddy's non-Ti 3060 gets way better than that at 1080p with the settings he kind of tweaked it out to run. Now I'm going to be upgrading him to the 6900 XT that I had in my system, and I'm going to do some maintenance on it, repaste and all that. But these numbers for the 3060 are just BS. Either
And this
they're
is
running everything at ultra or
okay.
it's
So
yeah.
if you look here, and this is from Nvidia's website,
And I apologize that
1080p.
we didn't have the slides up for you, by the way.
It's all good.
But
1080p max settings, DLSS super resolution, and DLSS ray reconstruction on
mhm.
30, 40, and 30 and 20 series, frame gen on 40 series, and multi-frame gen 4X mode on 50 series. And the 3060 is the 12 gigabyte model.
I was right.
So they're picking and choosing
Hmm.
the cards that they're using. And let's be honest, they're using a 4060, which is slower than a 3060 Ti.
Hmm.
So they're picking and choosing, guys. So what we're finding out is how screwed up this whole like 60 series has gotten. It
Yeah.
used to be the 1060 was a decent card, and it was the value card that you could get yourself into.
Yep.
And the 2060 continued. And then from the 3060 and on, they played games. Okay. The 3060 sucks. The 3060 Ti was fairly decent. The 4060 sucked. The 4060 Ti 16 gig model was at least in the decent range. And what
Yep.
we're finding out is that the 5060 sort of okay as long as you don't shoot yourself in the head and get the 8 gigabyte model.
Right.
Um,
And
and
these benchmarks weren't ever run on the 8 gig. And by the way, I was correct. I finally found in the caption below at the bottom of the slide in very tiny text that you could only see on Jensen's massive screen at CES. Ryzen 9800X3D 1440p max settings. The 3060 Ti was not
God,
meant to run 1440p.
oh wait, it gets better. If this is crazy. So if you look at this, the 5060 is an 8 gig model. The
Mm-hmm.
4060,
Now, is
okay,
that the 5060 or the 5060 Ti?
5060. These are vanilla. So we're just
Okay,
talking the vanilla cards right now. Okay.
gotcha.
The crappy models. The 4060, which is an 8 gig model. The 3060, now that is a 12 gig model. Okay. And then the 2060 is there, and that only has 6. So of the three of these cards, what they're trying to tell you is that they're comparing, and in their series, if you look at like the charts, the
Mm-hmm.
4060, okay, and if you look at the 3060 Ti, the 3060 Ti was 11% faster than the 4060.
Yep.
So the prior generation was faster than the new one, and it had a 4 on it. So, we look at this, and if you compare the 4060 to the 5060 Ti 8 gig, it's about a 20%. 20% between the 4060 and the 5060 Ti 8 gig.
Hmm.
Now there is a big jump between the 5068 and the 16. It does jump pretty good. The 16 gig is much quicker by
Yeah.
another 15 to 20% faster than that.
Right.
But what we're really getting at here is that, because they're doing, and if they're doing the exact same thing again, we should not be surprised about this. They're comparing fifth generation, the 50 series with multi-frame gen 4x mode, and they're comparing it to cards that can't do that and don't get the same type of frame gen
Mm-hmm.
as that. And the multi-frame gen, I kid you not, nobody who should be listening to my voice should even consider a 5060. They should not consider a 5060 Ti 8 gig. And I'd make the argument that you should not consider buying a 5060 Ti.
I would argue that by extension, you should not consider buying a
5070.
5070 or any Nvidia cards for that matter, because they are pulling this. And
I mean,
this kind of behavior is exactly why I switched to AMD when I bought my 6900 XT. Because it's beyond scummy. It is, in my opinion, a scam, and that is why we titled this episode the 5060 scam. And so
what really concerns me, like scam, but let's be honest, we talk about comparing apples to apples, and we really do rely on third party people to look at these products,
yep,
and give us realistic numbers, because if we went off of what Nvidia says, we would think that a 5070 vanilla 12 gigabyte is faster than a 4090. That's the claim they made.
Of course it is.
So that's a claim they made. And nowhere close, not even close.
Right.
And so, I look at this and I say, what really is concerning here is that they think that gamers are dumb enough to not know that a 5070 is slower than a 4090.
Mm-hmm.
Or they think that the marketing say, well, if you turn on multi-frame gen version 4 and turn on 4x mode, it's really the same. Guys, all they're doing is they're taking your 40 frames and they're putting a bigger number on your FPS counter. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It still plays and runs like it, but let's be honest. And I'd make the argument that this is the absolute worst card to be turning on frame gen.
Yep, because your base frame rate is going to be garbage.
Because it's all based off your base frame rate.
Yep.
Guys, if your base frame rate is 60 and you're turning on frame gen and it gets you to 90, you're still going to play like 60. It might be a little bit smoother, but it's still going to play and feel like 60.
Yep.
But guys, if you're starting at 22 frames a second and you turn on frame gen and it says, yeah, I'm getting 60. No, you're getting 22. Yeah. It's lying to you when you says you're getting 60.
Or it actually, with 4x multi-frame gen, that would be about 80.
Because this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, because when we actually get real reviews, and I'll have to admit, part of me is very interested in buying one of these cards, just to find out how bad the real frame to real frame comparison is.
Yeah.
But real frame to real frame, the 5060 is going to be, I'm going to say, like 5% different to the 4060. And so it begs to say,
I'd be surprised
if you thought the 4060 was crap, which it was. So if I have a 3060 Ti, it is going to be faster than the 5060. That's I would put money that a 3060 Ti is faster than the 5060.
I'll tell you what I would almost put money on. And in previous generation GPUs, this is almost unheard of. But in fact, I will make you the wager on this podcast. I will bet you $5, 5 cold hard American dollars. I'll
You should
Venmo it
bet
if
me a
I lose.
50-60. You should bet me a 50-60.
I wouldn't want to win that even if I lost. No, I will bet you $5 that the 1080 Ti that your son got as a hand-me-down several years ago
Oh, see, here's a question.
outperforms a 5060.
So if we think this is going to land around the 4060 vanilla, okay,
in raw frames, yeah.
in raw frames, okay, and I'm looking at this as tech power up. Okay. A 1080 Ti is at 93% comparative to the 4060. Now I think but the loaded question will be, if we get into a game where you have a higher resolution, the 4060 is going to run out of VRAM, the 5060 will run out of VRAM, and the 1080 Ti won't. Let's see.
Yeah, but the 1080 Ti is how old again? That was
1080 Ti was released
2015, or was that the 17?
17, I think. Release date, yeah, March of 2017.
Oh, 2017. Okay.
I mean,
so yeah, that if a card that is 8 years old, my math is right. Yeah. 8 years old.
Okay, so interestingly enough, you can buy a renewed 1080 Ti for $244 on Amazon with free delivery.
And renewed might actually have the manufacturer's warranty.
Probably. It depends on how it's set up.
Unless it's an EVGA. Yeah.
This is a PNY.
How crazy would it be if my 1070 that's sitting in a box in my closet is that I got from you outruns it?
It's really interesting. This is, I mean, look, it's clear as day. This is going to be a crap card.
Yeah.
It's going to suck.
And Nvidia knows that, and that's why they're launching it.
Games.
Well, that's why they're launching it on the 19th. And the reason they're launching it on the 19th, as Jay's 2 cents pointed out, is everybody, including him, are flying to Computex. Why do you think they're doing that? So that people can't have day one reviews out. But you get some small couple of gumballs on a podcast that are kind of fed up with Nvidia's BS. And
we
might want to do that.
On. Do we? So here's the question. Do you think Nvidia may have released some drivers to specific people who have done some testing, and when that will drop live with more favorable results, where they're like comparative, and they push the notion of the 5060 versus 4060 versus 3060?
I hope not, but I think it's certainly a possibility because Nvidia has been accused of doing that before with certain outlets that tend to glaze them more than AMD.
Let's think about this. I mean,
I wouldn't put it past them, but if they do, then that just proves this is 100% a scam.
Okay, we would think generation to generation, you would see an uplift of, I would say, probably 20%, wouldn't you think? Like a 3060 to a 4060.
Yeah, usually around 20% is what we what we find on gen, especially in the lower cards where they can tend to benefit more from the newer architecture. So I mean, if you look at the raw frame rate performance on the 5080 versus the 4080, that's kind of where we're at, is roughly 20%, which is about what we expected. So, assuming that
So,
carries forward, you might see 20% raw frame rate improvement over the 4060.
okay, the 3060 12 gigabyte comparative, and this is just on Tech Power Up, compared to the 4060 was an 18% bump. Okay.
Yeah, right in that ballpark.
Um,
Sure.
so if that's the case, if we just did it the exact opposite way, let's say we expect an 18% bump, this would put it at the realm of a 6750 XT or the 5060 Ti 8 gigabyte. There's no way it's going to compete with the 5060 Ti 8 gig. So it has to be slower than that, even though it has 8 gigs. We know it's going to be slower than that because it has fewer cores.
Yeah.
So that is the top. So realistically speaking, the real competition for this card is going to probably land somewhere between. This is so bad. It's going to be a mashup between, and this is where I would expect to see this card perform. A 2080 Super, Arc B580, and a 3060 Ti. And then you're going to have the 6700 and the 6750 XT. Let's see. How much can we buy a 3060 Ti for? Let's see, Amazon. 3060 Ti, I can buy
$150.
one
I think that'd be fair.
$360.
Oh, new.
This is new. So this is old. This is new old stock. So,
which is funny, they still have new old stock of those cards. If you buy one of those, make sure you repaste it.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, let's see, how much can you get an Arc B580 for? Because that's an interesting card, because you do get how much RAM do you get? 12 gigs. A B5. I don't think you can buy this anywhere.
The B580?
Yeah, I don't think you can buy B580 right now.
Oh, it might have sold out. Yeah, because there were a lot of people that were kind of excited about that. And I don't know that they had a whole lot of yield on those.
249 on Newegg, B580.
Ooh, nice.
For a little card that's in this range. So then the question is, how much are they trying to sell this thing for?
I'm going to guess, because
379 is the 5060 Ti. 5060 is supposed to be 299.
Buy the B580. It's that simple.
Well, and with the crappy drivers that Nvidia's had, I mean, I don't know who's going to be worse.
It's a real crapshoot. I mean, like, Intel's had their driver struggles, but they're showing pretty massive improvements. Like they have.
Well, okay, when you start at the bottom, Moose. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, but you got to learn how to break things before you can fix them. I mean, and that's the thing, is like, Intel had to break it first to be able to get it to work, and they got the product out. We have seen marked improvements for both the Alchemist and Battle Mage cards.
So let's just throw this out here, right? We're talking about cards and comparable cards in this price point. Okay. So we're talking 300 to let's say 350, because I'm sure they'll have overclocked models. Let's say the high end is going to be 380.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's just play devil's advocate here. What graphics card can I get from Facebook Marketplace for, let's say, under $400? So let me just take a quick yonder look, and let's play a game of, is this better than a 5060?
I would wager you probably be looking at a 4070, 4070 Ti.
Let's put the minimum at 320 and the max at 375. So we're going to be kind of
I'd say probably a 6900 XT might be in there, maybe a 6800 XT.
Okay, so here is a RX 6800 16 gigabyte card for 350.
There you go.
Definitely faster.
That will outrun it.
3070 Ti. Now a 3070 Ti, if I've got to go back, and 3070 Ti will absolutely be faster. If I compared it to where it is, it's going to be about 12% faster.
And a 4070 Ti would be another 10% on top of that.
Yeah. Yep.
I wonder if the 4070 is in that price range.
Here is a 6700 XT for 320. Definitely
Again,
faster.
Yep.
Let's see what I can find near the bottom. Here's a 30. Okay, this is hilarious. This is the best one here. They're a MSI RTX 3060 Ti with a 750 watt power supply.
Ooh.
$300.
Which means
now,
the card itself is probably worth about $50 less.
Right?
So yeah. Wow. That's Jensen.
I mean, that's
what
like,
the crap,
so
man.
If I go down and I look at used cards between 250 and 299, okay, so below $500, okay. I mean, here's a 3070 like OC for 275. Better. An A770. Now, A770, I don't know my A770. Where the heck is that? A770 is slower. Slower. Okay, so yeah, okay, so that's not a bad buy. That's not a good buy. Here's a 3060 Ti without your power supply, and it's been price cut to 275. I bet you could probably get that for about 220 all day long. I mean, that's it. Like, yeah. So here's a 2070 Super for 250. Could you here's a 1080 Ti in mint condition. It's the MSI Duke.
The Duke. Don't drop the Duke.
Oh, here it is. 2080 Super from Asus. 2080 Super.
Man.
It's a blower. It's a little dusty. It could use a cleaning. 250. So the real thing here is, do not buy the 5060. If you're at your price point, go to Craigslist. You're gonna find, because I in all honesty, a 2080 Super is absolutely going to be faster.
You do realize that the main like the main rule that we had at our Intel LAN Fest we used to go to really applies here. Don't do dumb stuff. Buying a 5060 is doing dumb stuff. Please do not buy this card. Wait for the reviews to come out. And not even like, if we do a review, do not wait for our review, because our results will not necessarily be typical. We don't have a professional benchmarking rig.
I don't have to buy this to tell people not to buy this.
I mean,
I'm dead serious. Don't buy this.
I think it would be fun to do that if we can pull that off. Just so we can get some benchmark numbers out from your personal system, and make it clear, like, hey, this is not a clean test rig. This is my daily driver. Because we're not Gamers Nexus, we're not Jay's 2 cents. We don't have sponsor money yet. We're working on it, but we don't. But that's the thing, is like, we kind of got to run what we brung, and that's what everybody else does. Like, most people don't go in and slap a new card in their system and reinstall the OS. I mean, heck, I didn't even do that, and I probably should, because I changed my motherboard, my CPU, my memory, and my graphics card. And hey, Windows 11 stayed activated, so I'm happy. But that's the thing, is like, we could say, hey, this is what I got, and compare those results to each other, because it would be from the same system.
Look, but all I would say is, and the more I'm looking, this is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I am seeing some cards in here on the that are just surprisingly inexpensive,
Mhm.
that are way better, and I think that are even better than we would ever expect. Here's a 2080 for $200.
Yeah. Like
Here is a 2080 Super for
if
200
if
bucks.
you're in the price range for a 5060, please look at your local used market because you will more than likely get something that's
Oh, you're
2 or
gonna
3 times more powerful
well, and what's
for the
sad
same
is
price.
that what this tells you how crappy that and how much people are getting screwed in the 60 series cards.
Mhm.
When we're looking at this, we're really comparing like a 2080 Super. Okay, so let's be honest, the 2080 Super was released in July of 2019.
Yep.
Okay, it's a 6-year-old card. It still only has 8 gigabytes of memory. Okay, it is the first round of RTX cards. It's not going to be a super strong ray tracing card. I
Yeah.
get it, but a fifth 2080 Super is is in this price point, and if I can get a 2080 Super and get the same speed that I can at a 5060, that's brand sinking new,
Mhm.
okay, and I can pay $200, there's your value proposition. I mean, here's an
Yeah.
EVGA 2080 Super for $200. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
all I can say is and I'm gonna do. Figure out if I can get me one of these to test and how
Yeah.
quickly we can realistically test this. But
Somebody might be
um,
requesting some paid time off.
payable by Moose. But
Right.
I mean, this is all I can say is that know what you're buying and don't do dumb things.
Yep.
And I find it very evident that AMD, I mean that Nvidia knows what they're doing,
Yep.
and they're absolutely screwing people,
Yeah.
and they're doing it on
And
purpose.
I think the fact that they are refusing to ship review units and provide review drivers prior to the day one release, that just speaks volumes to their confidence in the low quality of this product and the fact that it's just, I mean, it's already getting torn apart in the press. Like we're not the only ones sliding on it. It's, Yahoo and um,
What's
Tom's
sad
Hardware,
what's
video
sad
cards, yeah.
is, yeah, well, what's the problem is that you're going to have these people who are sort of into tech but not into gaming tech, who are going to come out, and they're going to be the morons who come out and be like, the 5060 is amazing, man, and they're going to come out and they're going to say like really like CNET.
Yeah.
They're going to come out and be like, it's the best things in sliced bread, and they're going to fall for it hook, line, and sinker. And all I can tell you is that anybody who has a release that's a big name, um, that has anything positive to say about a 5060, that tells you that you should never listen to a word that those people come out with.
Yep. And if you do listen to them and buy
You
the
shouldn't.
5060, which you shouldn't, most
Don't do
places
dumb
have a
things.
30-day return policy in the US. Unless you're
Yeah,
at
don't
Best
do dumb
Buy and you don't
things.
have their membership, and then it's 15 days. But that's a whole nother scam we can talk about later. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's really pathetic. With what I'm seeing here, it's not a good card, and I mean, the fact that they have so little confidence in it that they're not going to provide reviewers with a driver just tells me that they don't even Jensen doesn't even think it's a good card. They're just putting these bull shots together and telling you that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread just because that's what the shareholders expect out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of shareholders expecting things, one of the things that they expected was 13th and 14th gen CPUs not to kill themselves. And thankfully, in I think it was September or November, Intel released a microcode update. And just this week, they released another one. Now, the main issue they say is fixed, But the new microcode update apparently does some additional tweaking to several pieces that don't impact performance, but also reduce the likelihood that you're going to have issues with the 13th and 14th gen chip. Do you think, Turbo, now hearing that, hey, maybe the 13th, 14th gen would be a good upgrade from the 285K?
Oh, I think both of them are bad.
Yeah, I still would not trust them,
No, I no,
but you
I
know,
think they're both bad. I mean, it's not about, and I'm not even talking trust. Um, you know, that they're pushing the cost of the 265K down because they're not selling.
mm-hmm,
Um, they refuse to drop the 285K because they're like the golden samples. So you have to have some real like real performance there, which they don't have.
yep,
265K is only going to compete in a price and value segment. But again, when you really, for people who don't know what they're doing, that might go into that. Like I saw a guy tonight at there, and he was like in line to check out, and he had a 265K,
mm-hmm,
and I looked at him and I said, "Why are you doing that?" He's like, "Well, it's Intel." I said, "But you're not. That motherboard will only support that processor.
mm-hmm,
You have no upgrade options." He's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, they've discontinued that motherboard."
yep,
I said, "You're not going to get any more. You're not going to get the 385K on it." I said, and I make the argument that the 385K will not be called the 385K because they want to distance themselves from how crappy this processor works.
yeah.
And he was like, "Huh?" And I said, "You should probably go back and get a Ryzen bundle because any Ryzen bundle is better than this pile of heaping crap." And he listened. He actually went back
That's
and he
good.
got a 7700X that was $50 cheaper.
Interesting. So he probably could have gotten with the X3D if there was a bundle for it.
There was a bundle for the X3D, but it was more expensive. I told him it was like the
Ah,
X3D is faster. He's in the 9800 X3D. He's like, "Yeah, just trying to keep it in the budget." I said, "Well, if what that allowed him to do is to get a better graphics card." So
nice.
he saved the money on the processor, went to a 7700X, and I was like, "That's a better buy." I said, "If you
Yeah.
buy this," I said, "when the 9800 X3D becomes cheap and used," I said, "you'll be able to upgrade to that just as a direct drop in."
Yep. Or
And
potentially the 10800 X3D or whatever they call the next
or whatever
generation.
it is. But
Yeah.
that's the beauty about that, is you have upgrade options and you're not going to get that. So,
Yep.
you know, even if it's priced cheaply, Intel has painted themselves in a corner on that. And I'd make the argument like the 13th and 14th gen are old stock. They use a crap ton of power.
Mm-hmm.
And
They
with,
still perform like crazy. Like they are fast chips. Don't get me wrong,
but again, the
they
problem that we sit here and we
yeah,
sit there and say, you
it's a dead
painted
end.
yourself in a corner, because even if I have a 13th, what are you going to get? A 14?
Right. Exactly. No, exactly. And you're dead end again on the
You're
socket.
dead
And
end. And
that's the thing is
this,
that kind of hacked me off with Haswell. Even when I was working there, and I actually was told some internal information that I'm pretty sure I can't share still. Um, just because of NDAs and all that stuff, but it, we were told when Haswell came out that you could potentially drop in replace as a replacement for Ivy Bridge, and it didn't happen because they changed the socket, and then the next time around they changed the socket, and again they changed the socket, and it's like Intel has just been dead ending us for decades at this point, just because they can get away with it because they were Intel, and now AMD comes along with Ryzen and catches Intel with their pants down, then for the next 5 years, or no, more than that, they're producing processors that fit those boards that people bought back in 2017 when they released the first gen Ryzen.
I mean, the other half with the 13th and 14th gen, I know that there's manufacturers that are still making these parts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we know that they're making like the motherboards.
Yeah. Well, they
But
just announced they were ending production on, I think it was the 5800X and 5800X 3D.
well, but
So
that's AMD. But what I'm getting at is on a 13th and 14th gen, because it's my understanding the motherboards for those are Z7. The problem I think might be if
I think,
they
yeah.
kill off the support for motherboards, that's where, see, this is where people need to think about their upgrade paths, because once you stop making motherboards, that's when you really have problems.
Yep.
Because if you have an AM4 and you can go out and go to a micro center and buy an AM4 motherboard, if your motherboard dies or the NIC dies or something like that, that you can go out and realistically just go buy another one and be back up.
Yep.
The problem comes is that when you're old enough, like if you had a 6600K, you're absolutely screwed if your motherboard doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Because the motherboards are going to cost a pretty penny because nobody's making them new.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and anyone
what was
who,
the Intel CPU out at 2017? That was the 8800K, I
I don't
think.
know.
I want to say it was well, let's see. 2012 was Haswell. I'm forgetting all the stuff after I left Intel.
8700K.
Yeah, so 8700K.
Coffee Lake.
So if you're on Coffee Lake right now, which is still not a bad processor. It's kind of long in the tooth, but doable. Um and your caps on your motherboard explode like mine did on my first gen i7 in 2018. It took 9 years for that board to pop. That's the only good EVGA board I ever had, by the way. Like I've had a couple of them and they were not great. That one actually worked pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if you pop something on that board that just renders it dead, you have to buy new board, new memory, and new CPU because that chip is dead ended. So what are you going to do? Are you going to go to a 285K that's guaranteed to be dead ended because they just announced that the 300 series or whatever's coming next is getting a new socket? Or are you going to go with AMD where they have not only committed to multiple generations per socket, but they've also proven multiple generations per socket? We're at 8 years from Zen 1, and you can still buy a AM4 board and an AM4 CPU, and it doesn't matter which of either you get. I think with the exception of the first gen chipsets, that might have a hard time with the 5000 series. So if you get anything that's a 200 series chipset or above, you're guaranteed to run it. Like I could put the 5800X that I pulled out of my desktop and drop it into Mom's what was it? I forget what chipset that was. It's a tough board in the 200 series. It was the top or the B2, I want to say B260. I don't remember. It's been way too long, and everybody knows how I struggle with numbers because I can't keep calling my 6900 XT a 6800. So
You have a 6800 XT.
no, it's a 6900 XT. Don't
You
you
sure about
dare
that?
start gaslighting me now. I will get the box on this podcast.
Yeah.
I will do it. No, so yeah. AMD has not only promised, but now they have delivered for a full generation of a socket. 3 different generations of CPU. Because we got the 2000 series, the 1000 series, 2000 series, and 5000 series on the same socket. Intel has not ever done that. They've done 2 generations if you're lucky, because you could
Well,
do
I think
Haswell and Broadwell. You could
they're
do,
gonna have to do it because at this point people are pissed off.
yeah,
And I think they're going to have to. The question will be is do they have the balls to do it? Because that's going to require them to be a little bit more forward thinking and not change it. But in all honesty, they're going to have to really kind of plan ahead and
Mhm.
have a bunch of power delivery options and have pins that you could reallocate for future use.
Right.
But they've never done that in the past, so that's going to be a
Yeah.
new challenge for them. But look, Intel is kind of in a bad spot
Yeah.
because they get, in all honesty, um, Intel gets one chance to get this like next round of processors. Otherwise, I really,
Mm.
if they fall further behind, or if AMD really screws them by releasing something that's just amazingly fast,
Yeah.
and they don't have an answer.
Well, they had that with the 9800X
Intel is
3D.
absolutely screwed because their foundries are under delivering.
Hmm.
They're empty. They're not making things.
Yeah.
They even their own internal people don't want to use their own foundries. That's a bad sign.
Yeah.
Um, but Intel is in a really bad spot. And to be honest, I don't think there's a lot of people who have a lot of confidence that they can turn this around. I
Yeah.
don't think they can.
No, well, I think they can, but I also highly doubt they will. Because what
No.
Intel needs to save themselves is literally their version of Zen 1. They need to
No.
come out swinging for the fences and come out with a product that's good. Because right now, if you
And
look at retail, and I think it was Gamers Nexus I heard this on, many retailers are reporting that AMD is outselling Intel 4-1. For every one 200 series Intel, they are shipping 4 AMD parts.
I think that's probably
That's
low.
that it may be, but even 2-1 for Intel would be disastrous because
Who's
AMD
buying
has
this?
only had
Who
10%.
who 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 are these 1 and 4? Who's the 1 and 4 that's buying this?
The guy you met at Micro Center, he's the one because he's like, "Oh, it's Intel. I know them. They've always been Intel Inside." Okay, great. People like my mom. Like if mom didn't have me, she'd probably be buying an Intel. Um, it's people that don't have people like you and me to be like, "Hey, wait, you're building stuff, but let's look at this kind of logically and see what you can get for maybe cheaper or something better within the same budget." And, I mean,
Hmm.
the 7700K is, or 7700X is not going to outperform a 265K. It's just not. But it's close enough that most people aren't really going to notice the difference. Number one, it's, and in your guys' case, it's cheaper enough that you could buy better hardware on other things, which your guy did. He could have potentially gone up to a slightly better CPU, maybe a 7800X 3D, but I think, what he ended up doing makes a lot of sense. Now, do you remember what GPU he switched to?
I don't remember.
Fair enough. But that's
Um,
exactly the thing. And that's why, if you don't have somebody like us in your corner who's familiar with the hardware, kind of knows what the best options are depending on your price point, find someone because, there's a lot of people out there on various forums and places who are more than happy to share their knowledge and experience with you. Because PC gaming and as a whole can be a little toxic at times,
so
but there's
I'm
also a lot of
sorry. I don't.
non-toxic people.
He must have gone to a 9700X.
Oh, he might have. Well, the
No,
9700X I think would run
he
circles
did
around it. Yeah.
because I'm looking at something like where was there's 429, and that's what it was. And so, anyways, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't
Any
know.
way
I
you slice
just
it, he got a better CPU for less money, and Yeah, I mean, 7700X, I would say, is slower than a 265K, but the 9700X, yeah, that's right on par. And if not better in a lot of cases. So he got an upgrade for less and then upgraded his graphics card as well.
Yeah.
That's a win. You cannot slice that any other way than it's an absolute win on all fronts. So, you know, good on him, and I hope he enjoys his new system. I hope it kicks ass. And I think on that bombshell, we will call it a show for this evening because we have gone a little bit longer than normal. And while we're here and closing out, I want to thank you all for watching. Appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time and sharing with us a little bit of fun slagging on Nvidia for trying to scam us all and hopefully warn some other people. So do remember to like and subscribe, leave your comments down in the doobly-doo below, do all the algorithmic goodness.
And don't let your friends do dumb things.
Yes, remember rule number 1 of LAN Addict. Don't do dumb stuff. Leave that to us.
And then tell your friends not to do dumb things.
Yeah, let us do the dumb stuff so you can laugh at us and be like, oh, I'm not going to do that because it's dumb stuff. So, thank you all again, and until next time, have fun storming the castle.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.